Consult, orchestrating technology to move business forward.
Hello and welcome to NT Talks. Following a recent podcast that we did with Dan Kais of Camunda, where we talked about insurance and fraud and originations. Today we welcome Marco Andolfatto, who is the Chief Underwriting Officer at Apollo Insurance. And Apollo is a company often recognized as a true digital first insurance. Is that correct, Marco? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, for sure. We've gained a lot of ground and a lot of notoriety, or people know us for being very, very digital.
So in this conversation, we're going to explore a little bit about what it means in practice, and from early architectural decisions and software development to customer experience, underwriting, and the role of AI in insurance operations in a digital insurance company. So, Marco, welcome to NT Talks. As we've said, you guys have been described as that digital first insurer. In practical terms, what does that mean for you on a day-to-day operations, and how did that vision sort of shape the platform that you guys at Apollo built?
Well, first off, thanks for having me. I love talking about insurance and technology, so it's always a pleasure to be able to do so. Well, first, I want to clarify what Apollo is. Apollo's not an insurance company. We're technically a MGU, so a managing general underwriter. So what that means is we have delegated authority. We have the authority to underwrite on behalf of insurers. We have the responsibility to manage the capacity, develop product, and develop all the things that essentially insurance companies do, but we are ourselves not an insurance company. And I'll probably later on in the talk go into why that's important, because it's given us a lot of tools and a lot of flexibility to innovate being an MGU. But we're also a retail broker. And we are a premium financing company. And so we have these kind of three separate kind of what I call financial services within the insurance world that is kind of framed within a single kind of technology ecosystem. So it's kind of all united under a single ecosystem. So that's essentially what we are.
So as a customer, I might be coming to you for what? For insurance, and then you might be going to get it from a variety of providers or a selection of providers?
Yeah, absolutely. So our customers can be insurance brokers. So insurance brokers can come to us on behalf of their clients, but then we can also have insureds or customers, the public, come directly to us for certain lines of business. And yes, exactly that. We can provide a variety of different products from a variety of different insurers. We tend to kind of stick to a single type of product for a single line of product. So what I mean by that is when you come to us, you're not getting a variety of different tenants insurance options. You're getting the Apollo option. And so that's generally how we do things. And so yeah, so from a day-to-day perspective, because we've built everything up from the ground up with the idea of automation and being digital first, from a day-to-day perspective, it's allowed our employees to do a lot of strategic work, a lot of oversight work, a lot of managing of, from an insurance perspective, managing of the capacity, looking at the results, looking at trends. So, our vision from day one was to automate all that work that could be automated that doesn't really bring value to the customer or even internally bring value to our employees, the data entry, all that manual stuff, and instead kind of leave more time for, building relationships, doing things that are strategic and having a good experience working within the organization.
Great. And I'm guessing that in the beginning, because, you're starting up as digital only, you have a software development team and working on all these things and creating them. And that gave you a fair amount of both ownership and clarity.
Yeah, absolutely. We started from the ground up building it ourselves. So we had a kind of early days was a combination of people with insurance experience, people with just programming and tech experience, people with marketing experience. insurance primarily. And so we kind of converged all these abilities, all these talents, all these skills, and sort of under a single vision of like, yeah, let's create an insurance organization that's digital, that's automated, that gives customers a experience akin to going on Amazon and buying their favorite book or their favorite item. We wanted insurance to be that easy. With a lot of our marketing material, we talk about it being frictionless. And so we wanted that experience for our customers. But then we wanted our customers to be able to have it accessible online, easily accessible online. And that was particularly important because Apollo started in 2018, and soon after that, we know the pandemic happened. So it really formed the vision of what Apollo is. So the pandemic, when it started, we, like everyone else, we were like, what the heck's going on? Is the world economy about to collapse? But it turned out that it actually reinforced our vision of like, yeah, this is how people want to conduct their insurance, especially in small micro transactions in the commercial and personal line space.
So it's accessibility, it's online, it's doing the things that like the pandemic played into that hand quite well, but also people like that anyway, right? It's that much more accessible, and you don't have to go into the local insurance dealer and deal with them face to face, which has a plus, but also has a negative. But so today, what does it actually feel like to buy insurance through Apollo? If I'm going to do that, sounds like you have some direct to consumer and some direct to business. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So like if you're a broker, it can act as a very efficient way of getting really good product to your customers. And then it also acts as like a policy management system for them. Like it helps to catalog all the policies that they've done through Apollo. And there's a whole bunch of reporting features, and that's for brokers. For customers, it's as simple as, as like finding a banner on Google, clicking on it, and then going through a process that on average takes 3 to 4 minutes, and people will bind. So it's really easy. It's very customizable. You can go from paying annually, paying monthly, very seamlessly. You can modify limits. You can modify coverage types. So there's a lot of modification, and it's done in a way that is accessible and easy to understand. In particular, tenants insurance, where we've bundled special limits into kind of lifestyle packages. So instead of, a lot of our competitors will have like list after list of special limit that you have to kind of adjust and toggle. We just say like, are you more into outdoor activities? Okay, so then the special limits like this will make sense to you. Are you more into luxury items? Then okay, here's a bundle that gives you higher jewelry limits, et cetera, et cetera. So we've done it that way. And we've also learned a lot, like, obviously computing, the rating and the underwriting of tenants insurance for a modern day computer is like milliseconds. Like it's like so easy for a computer to go through that algorithm. And there's quite a few data points, but again, it's, computers are so powerful nowadays. So we kind of learned early on that make it easy, but don't make it so easy. Because some consumers would be like, they literally go to us and be like, is this real? Like, is that all it takes? And so what we had to do was we had to develop even like loading screens, like just to kind of illustrate to the consumer that it's calculating their premium or their terms and conditions. And in reality, it did it in like less than a millisecond, but we had to kind of show them that it's something is happening in the background. So again, like it's kind of interesting. There's a psychology of like make things easy, but don't make it so easy that the consumer thinks that this can't possibly be right.
So I'm curious, as a tenant, do I have 10 choices? I can be a luxury person. I can be an outdoors person. I can be a sports person. And then can I make 3 or 4? Like I'm all of those, or how does that work?
Yeah, you could choose all 3 of those packages, or you can go in and actually customize yourself. So you can actually go in deeper and then customize all of them if you want, if you don't like the packages. But, again, like there's a psychology of how you present these options, and presenting too many options actually does the consumer a disservice. It's just confusing, and either it frustrates them and then they stop the buying process, or it frustrates them and they just ignore everything. So, and it's interesting. We've gotten to conversations with, all sorts of stakeholders that we have, whether it's our insurers or brokers that use us, and they ask us about the design, and yeah, the design's very intentional, because if you throw a wall of information to a consumer on a screen, it's not good. Like, it's not disclosure, it's just confusion, and it really is frustrating for the customer. So there's the way it's designed is like there's a surface presentation, but then if the customer wants, they can go in deeper and do a high level of customization of the product.
And they can do all of that from the comfort of their home and computer, which is nice.
Yeah, you can do it on your phone. Yeah, you can do it on your phone. You can do it while you're watching a soccer game, for example, and it's available 24/7.
In the background, you're obviously going to do some kind of analysis of the tenant, whether or not to approve, or do you kind of verify, they say I'm a luxury provider, and in the background, is there some kind of AI or anything doing some search to say, hey, are these guys really luxury people? Did they ever buy a Rolex?
No, there isn't that level of kind of intrusion.
Of investigation.
No. But there is a level of, like, we do bring in data to verify addresses, to verify building types. We use AI to look at building types. So instead of asking the customer what kind of building you're in, we just have AI identify it based on the address and Google Maps data. We have like credit ratings come in from an aggregate standpoint, so we kind of have a sense of the neighborhood. We have obviously geography, postal code. We're in Canada, so it's postal codes play a part as well in terms of the performance of that particular area. So like the sophistication, we layer sophistication onto it. We started, I would say, when we approached tenants insurance, we started very simply. We kind of took the traditional underwriting book on tenants insurance and kind of threw it out, because we felt like it was flawed. It was based on biases that were more, that were old, that were decades old, but then also biases that were based on what underwriters would do when they're approaching homeowners. And we felt like renters is a very different animal. And renters today is a very different animal. Like the 30-year-old or 40-year-old that's renting in Toronto, which is a big urban center in Canada, Vancouver, is very different than what it was like 40 years ago. So yeah, we very much, we wanted to kind of start fresh and layer on our own data, our own understandings about what's important, what's not important from a underwriting standpoint.
So you have all this automation running in the background, and you've kind of put these people in pools, and it's working well. But where do you kind of involve the human judgment, or how do you integrate the two, or is there human judgment involved here?
Yeah, on a file by file basis, no, it just transacts. Like as we're talking now, we're binding, hundreds of policies without any interference from people. It's just not required.
Let's call it involvement.
Yeah, involvement. Maybe I'm too negative on people, but yeah, involvement. But to be positive on people, the judgment comes on like reviewing the results, in looking for trends, understanding where opportunities lie, understanding where potential challenges lie, figuring out, can that experience be even better? Looking at the data and saying, well, why are people struggling with question 3? Because we can go that deep. Is it how we phrased question 3? Can question 3 be replaced by data that we can just collect from another source? So that's kind of where people come in. It's like a lot more strategic. It's a lot more data driven. I mean, we've done a lot of work in integrating Claude into our productivity software, but also our data that we collect, our data lake. And even with Claude, like it just gives us a lot more insights where it's an assistant essentially that can help us make decisions and kind of make decisions that kind of look at like the bigger picture rather than individual files. Like it's very rare that we kind of look at an individual file and make a decision. I would say maybe that sometimes occurs on like in claims situations where we're kind of looking at an understanding that we have on the particular file based on a claim, but it's pretty rare.
And so it sounds like you've got this partner ecosystem with brokers and property managers, maybe, and even customers. What changes as you start thinking about this and as you start growing, and as it scales, right? Does anything change, or what do you think?
Yeah, so to explain, like, yeah, we distribute in a variety of different ways. So independent insurance brokers across Canada are very important partners for us. They rely on us to place a variety of different insurance for their customers or their clients, whether it's personal lines or commercial lines. I think for us, the important value add that we bring to these brokers is a level of automation that they're not even getting from their larger domestic carriers. I can say it confidently, placing a condo policy, a tenant's policy with us, I don't know, a commercial policy for a mobile vendor or a contractor. It's easier with us than it is with anyone else. Like, they can achieve an efficiency where they're not spending, 2 hours on the placement of this kind of $1,000, $2,000 risk. They can spend literally minutes doing it with us, and we'll help track and we'll help arrange premium financing. And it's all very seamless and very easy for their customer, because they can share a link, and then that link, they can use that link to pay us directly. So yeah, the value for our brokers is going to be expanding our product lines, to offer more products that kind of fill that micro to small insurance vein in the P&C space. And then giving them tools to manage those policies. So, instead of calling up your insurance carrier and saying, hey, can I have a certificate of insurance? We made it easy. You just go into your portal and you just kind of get it yourself, right? And so you can get stuff done in a matter of, again, minutes instead of like hours.
On the issuing side, then it sounds pretty, I don't want to say straightforward, but very, very efficient, right? But still on the claim side, there's an end-to-end process that might be a little bit more complex. And so is that fair?
Yeah. Unlike some of the big insurtechs in the US, like Lemonade, huge valuations, lots of capital. They were able to kind of like challenge, from binding all the way to claims. They've done it all, right? In Apollo's situation is we've really taken an automated underwriting, distribution, and a lot of things that kind of go with those sorts of areas. Claims is not an area that we've necessarily tackled yet, but certainly it's an area that we're very, very interested in, in kind of like bringing technology.
And so, yeah, because in that regard, as you get bigger and bigger and you guys are growing fairly dynamically, right? That's an area where, okay, now we need to begin to automate that process as much as possible. There'll still be a human in the loop somewhere.
Yeah. One comment on that, just quickly. Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame doing claims. I think with claims, there has to be an inherent friction to it, a little bit of friction to it. So like the whole idea of underwriting and purchasing and having a great customer experience, you want to achieve less friction as possible. You want to make it easy, informative, all those sorts of things. Whereas claims is a little different, because there needs to be a tiny bit of friction to make sure there's a validity to it, to make sure that you're gathering the right information, that there isn't I guess what would the word be, kind of like a nonchalant kind of approach to it, because it can be abused easily.
Yeah, and I think even rather than friction, I think I'd probably go with interaction, right? Because it's a process.
That's a good word.
We don't want to imply it's not a frictional process that creates friction, but it's something that you need to go back and forth and talk a little bit and make sure you understand, and to avoid issues and to make sure that everybody's understanding what's needed and what's appropriate, etc. But even then, some of the process can be automated. But as you continue to grow, right, you've been able to do a lot of this internally. I would think there are some needs as you begin to grow and you get more claims, where you'd want to learn a little bit more about what others have done, right? And also maybe begin to occasionally bring in, I would think, some external advice on that, right? And perhaps even some external support. So have you thought about that? And as you continue to grow and maybe even expand into new products, and as the complexity grows, how have you thought about that? Or are you just right there now? We're beginning to think about it.
Yeah, I think we are at that point. We're at the point where a lot was done internally. A lot can be done internally, especially with AI tools being so powerful. The productivity of your tech team goes up quite a bit. But you're right. There is, as you scale, as you grow, there is a need for a lot more niche expertise that's practically speaking, you just don't have internally, and it doesn't maybe make sense to bring in internally. And then as well, I think in areas that you're kind of diving into brand new, I think it does make a lot of sense to kind of bring in an expertise or bring in some support that is already in that space. Like there's already interesting companies, for example, doing a lot of automation on claims handling, especially in the auto
I would say
sector. Yeah.
we do some of that. Of course, we'll work with a company like Camunda that has an automation and orchestration project that includes embedded agentic AI, right? So you take that end-to-end claims process and you can diagram it in, business process modeling notation standard, make sure everybody understands what's going on. You can get all the transparency and regulatory things that you need, and then you can really begin to track it. So as you start to think, because it's not that you're going to get more and more claims because more people are claiming, you're going to get more and more claims because you're writing more and more policies,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And actually, if you're doing a good job, the percentage goes down, like, the percentage of claims to your book.
Yeah, but the numeric value still may rise because you're just doing so many more,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And that's just part of it. So that's one of the things to keep in mind, and also there's something that we work with a couple insurance companies as it stands, NT Consult. And so we've had what their experience has been, what our experience has been with them, and in multiple cases, right? And sometimes that external view can add consultative value, right?
Oh yeah, like I think for us in the early days, yes, it was important for us to kind of like again have that more insular and develop inside of ourselves, because we had to discover what we were. We had to kind of like innovate within ourselves to kind of truly understand what we were trying to achieve. And then once you get to that stage, I think it does become easier to kind of bring in these external expertise and these kind of consultants such as yourselves, where you guys have basically, yeah, we've seen this all. We've worked with a lot of different, carriers. We can bring this to you, and then we can kind of give you that feedback of like, okay, this is actually what we want to achieve, because we've already kind of discovered that we've matured as an organization. I kind of describe like the startup world as being like, just like a human being. You kind of start as a baby, toddler. You have the teenage years where you're kind of going all over the place. And then you hit your 20s and you've matured and you kind of know what you want to do. And so I think companies need to go through that evolution, because I think you would probably agree with this. Like, it's difficult to work with a client that isn't quite sure about what their vision is and what their business model is and where they want to go in like 10 years, right?
Yeah, and some of us, actually don't mature till we're 30, but others do get there early and appropriately. And I think again, there's also that combination of, right, you want to grow, you want to mature, but you also want to maintain your core culture and your core beliefs and be who you are, right?
Yeah, how do you
And
do
so
that?
it's how do you mix those things?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, but I think it kind of comes down to kind of the traditional, relationship building, bringing people together, having the talks on the couch, with pizza, And just talking about the business in a more casual setting, that has worked really well with us. We have a beautiful office space where we were able to kind of have those sorts of meetings and bring in food and just kind of like be there and enjoy each other's company, but then also talk about the business. That kind of helped the culture immensely. We also have I think every company needs to have traditions, small traditions, and we have a tradition of, especially employees that have been tenured, that have been with the company for a long time. We have a coin that we kind of give out. It's kind of, I think it's similar to what they do in the military or what they've done in NASA, where they have this kind of, I can't remember what it's called, but it's essentially a coin kind of symbolize your tenure and your kind of connection with the company.
5-year pin, a 10-year pin.
Exactly, that sort of thing, which is really cool. And so the tradition is if one person pulls it out, so if you're sitting at a table and one person pulls it out, everyone has to pull out theirs because you always have to keep it on you, right? So those are fun little things that we've kind of done to create what Apollo's culture is. I was going to say, we were fortunate where, we're a younger group. Myself being probably one of the older individuals within Apollo, but we're a younger group, so there was an energy, there was a culture that kind of built up very organically, and it was challenging because we are primarily remote as well. So it's like, how do you can have a core group, but then you bring it when you hire new people, how do you bring those people into the group and have them feel that energy and that culture? That is not easy, but it does take in person and kind of a conscious effort to connect with people even virtually on a regular basis.
Well, it sounds like you and Apollo have had this great path of making something digital, making something accessible, but also creating culture along the way. And it's probably in some ways, maybe even to your benefit, that unfortunately, that the COVID came early because it allowed you guys to focus independently. But now that it's fortunately passed and calmer, it allows you to be together and then create and build upon what you created in the first place.
Yeah. Fortunately, the world is now smooth sailing.
Let's not quite say that, but yeah. Well, look, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I really appreciate the comments that you've made. It sounds like the insurance is growing and it's becoming more accessible, and you guys are helping to do that. So that's great. I really appreciate the comments.
Yeah, thank you. And people love the experience, and our customer base is growing rapidly, and we get good feedback. And then importantly, internally, people are having fun. People are enjoying working for the company, and we allow a lot of flexibility as well. So kind of you get that kind of nice work-life balance, which is not easy to achieve.
Well, that's great. I do encourage you to take a look at the Camunda website. I think they actually have some free access where you can kind of model something and see what happens. They have some and I know they do a lot with Claude as well. And then also just finally, before we do wrap up, is there anybody you would recommend we talk to more about the digital insurance or about insurance in general along the way?
Yeah, there's a lot of great people in Canada in the insurtech space. It's pretty vibrant. There's one individual, Finn McGee. He's the head of Insurtech Canada. He's fantastic.
I'm sorry, I missed that name. Could you repeat that?
It's Finn, Finn McGee. And he's very, very well connected in the Insurtech space in Canada, building bridges to other Insurtech associations around the world. Very knowledgeable. Worked for Crawford on the claim side in their innovation unit. So really, really cool stuff.
Thank you very much. Again, I really appreciate the time, and we look forward to continuing the conversation at some point, and best of luck to Apollo. Grow and insure.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks, Ron.
NT Consult. Great people coding the future.